discovering a land of unexpected beauty, full of contrast and full of colour. Exploring ancient history in a country littered with the remains of bygone civilizations. And doing this in company with other enthusiastic travellers. Learning together from experienced local guides, but also with the opportunity to go off on your own. There is nothing like experiencing different cultures, ancient and modern, and encountering for yourself other ways of life. And this is especially possible in the captivating country of modern Turkey. Unknown to many, it is a unique meeting point between East and West and offers the visitor a fascinating combination of contemporary Islamic culture and ancient Christian history. The landmass of Turkey was known in ancient times as Anatolia or Asia Minor. Many of its cities are mentioned in the Bible, so those interested in the New Testament or the story of the early church are often drawn irresistibly to this important region. Macabre pilgrimages have been leading tours for many years to all these biblical sites, but we especially recommend, for those new to Turkey, a focus on the area around Ephesus and the 7 churches mentioned in the book of Revelation. However, no journey to Turkey would be complete without a visit to a city which in its time has been known as Byzantium and Constantinople, but now as Istanbul. After our short flight across Europe, this historic city is the perfect introduction to a fascinating country. We begin at the Blue Mosque, an architecturally magnificent building found in the Hippodrome area of central Istanbul, where we also visit the massive Hagia Sophia. Once a Christian basilica, then a mosque and now a museum, the Hagia Sophia, meaning divine wisdom, has a history dating back to the 4th century, an excellent place to begin our exploration of the multifaceted cultural and religious story of Turkey. As we leave, we drop in on the nearby underground Justinian cisterns before heading on to lunch in the Topkapi Palace. The palace was the residence of the Ottoman sultans for almost 3 centuries, and we see their lavish furnishings still adorning the vast halls and rooms. On day 3, we head to the Egyptian spice market, a feast for the eyes, nose and mouth. And then, perhaps after a little snack, on to the Byzantine church of St. Saviour in Kora, now a museum full of stunning mosaics and frescoes. This is followed by a lunch of fresh fish in the harbour of Tarabaya, which provides a calming backdrop after our morning wandering. Then it's all aboard as we continue our relaxation, but sailing on the Bosphorus, the ideal way to appreciate the grandeur and beauty of this historic city. Back on dry land, we spend the rest of the afternoon exploring the colourful and busy labyrinth of the Grand Bazaar, the oldest covered market in the world. Istanbul is a real treat, a Turkish city full of delights. Day 4 is usually a Sunday, so in the morning there's an opportunity for Christian worship together, either in a local church or perhaps at the hotel. Then we leave Istanbul behind and are back in the air, on the plane to Izmir, an hour's flight to the southwest. Now is our opportunity to explore the area of the 7 churches. The 7 churches are mentioned in the opening chapters of the Bible's last book, Revelation. A man called John, one of the first Christians, is given a powerful vision of the risen Christ and is then instructed to send it round to the Christian congregations in 7 major cities in the Roman province of Asia Minor. The first of these is Ephesus, which we'll be visiting at the end of our tour, but the next 3 they lie to the north and can all be seen on our first day in the region. Pergamum, with its massive theatre carved into the steep hill of its impressive Acropolis. Thyatira,
the ancient ruins only visible in a city square in the centre of the modern town. And Smyrna, now the sprawling city and busy harbour port of Izmir, but still with its ancient marketplace not far from our hotel. It's fascinating to be in these biblical sites and to read each one of the letters in the actual place where it was first received.
Can you hear me? Be faithful, even to the point of death.
I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire.
And one of the intriguing things that we will discover as we do so is that there is normally an allusion to an aspect of each city's history or geography. We're going to get a great example of this today as we set out for Sardis. In the 1st century AD, its buildings had spread out to include a vast gymnasium. But 500 years before, the city's stronghold nearby was on a seemingly impregnable hillside. Rich King Croesus thought he was safe, but one night his enemy broke in while the city slept. Hence Christ's words to Sardis, "Wake up, I will come like a thief." In the next letter to Philadelphia, a city that had experienced a disastrous earthquake, Christ promises to make his people stand firm like pillars in his temple. The local circumstances of each city are known well, so the letters make their point in a telling and personal way. And that's something which we've been experiencing as a group, and which makes travelling on this kind of tour so unique and fascinating.
After Philadelphia, the final letter was sent to Laodicea, a city some 50 miles further inland. So we head in that direction, but en route we stay overnight at the Richmond Thermal Spa Hotel, situated in the middle of the Lycus Valley at Pamukkale, conspicuous from a distance for its mysterious white hillside. Pamukkale, which means cotton castle, takes its name from these white limestone travertines that are formed as hot spring waters cascade down the slopes. Arriving at the end of the day, we might be in time to see the incredible colours painted on the white canvas by the sun as it sets over this extraordinary landscape, one that is unparalleled anywhere else in the world. Where we're staying, at Pamukkale, was a spa town in ancient times as well, known as Hierapolis, or the Sacred City. Our first impressions are slightly strange as we approach it through a massive necropolis, stretching more than a mile and littered with tombs, some built like houses. Once through the gates, we make our way along the ancient streets, surrounded by reminders of the city's long-lost residents. One former resident is said to have been St. Philip, and there is a church building here in his honour, standing on the hill above the city. Was this the burial place of the same Philip mentioned for his evangelism in the book of Acts? With its commanding view over the valley, this is a great place to reflect on the early apostles and the way their message about Christ spread so rapidly from Jerusalem to remote places such as these. Across the same valley, we finally come to Laodicea.
I know your deeds, that you're neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with him and he with me. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches.
After a spot of lunch at a local restaurant, perhaps with a glass of Turkish wine, we spend the afternoon exploring the Roman city of Aphrodisias, a stunning site flanked by snow-capped mountains. Now well acquainted with each other, and also with the stones of antiquity, our group rambles through yet another fine example of Turkey's abounding ancient heritage, inspecting each elaborate detail, learning in its lecture halls, and being dwarfed by the sheer size of its amphitheatre, all bathed in the splendour of the afternoon sun. The stadium at Aphrodisias is perhaps even more impressive, being largely still intact, and perfectly rounds off our day's touring, before we drive on from the mountains down to the Aegean coast and a well-earned rest at our seaside hotel. The valley of the river Meander, rich for farming and rich with history. Today we do a circular tour of 3 ancient cities in this area. The first is Priene, which is set into one of the surrounding hills. There's a bit of a climb up its many steps, but it's worth the effort. Next is the Temple of Apollo at Didyma, with some of its huge columns still standing. We learn more about how people in ancient times would consult oracles here, at Delphi and elsewhere, and then we go through to the inner sanctuary used by the oracle's priests and priestesses. And remember, on a McCabe tour, always to keep your eyes peeled. You never know where the next photo opportunity is coming from. Our final port of call today is Miletus, set at one end of the Meander Valley. It has a massive theatre, and our first challenge is to see if we can find the seats designated for the God-fearers, a recognised group found in many cities and mentioned in the Book of Acts. Miletus was also literally the final port of call for St. Paul, as he concluded his 7 years of ministry around the Aegean. The sea receded from this ancient harbour many years ago now, but much of this low-lying site remains waterlogged to this day. According to Acts, Paul gave an emotional farewell speech here to the church leaders from nearby Ephesus before boarding a boat to leave for an uncertain future. Our penultimate day starts with a short drive alongside the mountains towards the magnificent site of the one church we have yet to see of the 7 from Revelation. Ephesus, for some people, the highlight of our tour. The archaeological remains here are truly impressive and extend over a wide area. Thousands of people visit the site every day, its streets still lined with images of its guardians, protectors, and leaders. The library has been carefully reconstructed, and if you're fortunate, that may not be the only reconstruction that you see. Of course, this was a hugely significant place for St. Paul too. The Book of Acts describes the big riot which his ministry caused amongst the silversmiths, and relates how the crowd rushed as one man into the theatre to make their protest against Paul's teaching. The theatre's size, with a capacity of 25,000, gives you an idea of the massive population that once inhabited this major metropolis. In the afternoon, we see further evidence of Christian activity here when we visit the burial place of St. John in nearby Selçuk, and the traditional house of the Virgin Mary, who may have settled here with him. Then, as always, before we leave, there is an opportunity to buy a memento, authentic or otherwise, from the many stalls outside the site. Our last day is a day of leisure, either at the hotel or on a boat trip from the local harbour, or perhaps a visit to a local carpet factory, an authentically Turkish cultural experience. we can witness for ourselves the process and painstaking technique of making every carpet by hand in what is often a family-run business passed down through the generations. And then we are treated to a veritable feast of Turkish salesmanship as the vendors enthusiastically lay out their wares before us. Over a cup of chai, or perhaps some Turkish coffee, we are invited to try out the goods and hone our bartering techniques. After that, there's time for the obligatory group photo. And then one last evening together, swapping stories and sharing memories of our exciting and enjoyable trip in this unique and spectacular country. Don't forget, there is so much more to see. Turkey spreads far and wide. Eastwards to ancient Antioch and its surrounding hills. Inland to Cappadocia with its bizarre scenery and many Byzantine churches carved into its soft rock. Southwards to Tarsus with its long Roman road above the city. And not forgetting its trademark turquoise coast, dotted with historic castles, temples and cities. All of these sites and more are available when travelling with McCabe Pilgrimages.